Welcome back to Bonanza Disc Golf, into a pretty special and cool episode where you can see I'm loading up a ton of mid-ranges, and the main reason for that is because I was in Pensacola and went to putting league and won a disc that I don't even think is out yet. It's the new Finish Line Discs Supra, which is the mid-range from Drew Gibson's company, and we're gonna test it today at a course here called the Prairie at Graham Creek Nature Preserve. And this is, I think, the perfect course to test a straight flying mid-range, and if you know Drew Gibson, you know he liked his buzzes. But I have 6 different mid-ranges that we're gonna test across the 6 different holes of this bag it or bin it, because I want to see which one this most flies like, because on their website the numbers say it's 5.5 negative 0.51, and the thing is, over these 6 holes, like all bag it or bin it, if I can't beat par with just this disc, I'm gonna have to give it away. We're gonna compare one disc per hole just to see how they fly similar and different, and we're gonna make sure we throw on the same lines. We're actually gonna get started here on hole number 2, because hole number 1 is not a good one to test this out on. Okay guys, real fast, Bonanza Disc Golf mystery boxes are live this week only. In them you get 3 of my premium plastic first run Bonanza stamp discs, 3 of the minis as well, 1 additional disc for my personal collection. There's also gonna be 8 special ones. Glitch, 2022 Jeremy Colling Thunderbird, Full Tilt, first drive that I ever bought, a Kristen Tatar Orbit Grace, I don't even know why I'm throwing this one in there, especially because it's new, an Orbit Glory first run, the Iron Samurai 4, as well as a Crystal Flex Zone. Plus, if you're watching this video the day that it comes out, today only, there's an additional 5% off if you use the code subscriber. Go ahead and pick those up. There's a very limited amount of them. First link down in the description, but back to reviewing the Supra. Real quick, one thing that you guys let me know that I should be doing before these videos is a profile view of these discs and how they feel in hand. First off, this Finish Line plastic, it's like, it's kind of like if you were to mix Champion and Star together, if you were thinking about Innova. It honestly feels pretty similar to some of MVP's plastic, just for some reason not quite as premium. I don't know what it is about it, but the hex just feels slightly nicer. I did notice that underneath here, it's not like crazy flashing, but underneath here there are like, you can feel that there's a little bit of rim there. Isn't bad, you can probably get it off, but just if we were to compare it to a Buzz, which I have here that will throw against it a little bit, the profile seems very similar. It kind of looks almost exact, just the plastic being different, the ESP versus this Supra. In hand, the Buzz feels a little bit deeper than the Supra does. But this is one of the only straighter mid-ranges that I felt that has kind of a similarly sharp rim here, because a lot of the other ones like the Hex Finder, the Pathfinder, the Hex, the EMAC Truth, which I have in here, those ones feel a little bit more rounded on this bottom edge right here. We have 6 holes and 6 different types of discs to throw against. 2 of 1 disc though, because it's the one that I bag for my straight flying mid-range slot. All right, our first hole here is about 250, 260 feet, slightly uphill. And we're actually gonna start off with the Supra versus the disc that I bag, which is an EMAC Truth, which I actually just now noticed is slightly different because it has a little bit of a bead on the bottom of it right here. The EMAC Truths do. Stop focusing so much on my face. So if you notice here, there's a little bit of a bead right there compared to no bead right here. But we're gonna go ahead with the Supra first, just through this straight line. Should put it flat, maybe 60% power, let it finish back towards the basket. Yeah. A little short, a little high. That kind of came out fast. I'll have to see if that repeats itself. This is my EMAC Truth that I bag, so it's pretty beat in, slightly less stable. So I did put that one on a little bit more hyzer and it did flip up. I mean, that's gonna be a perfect shot, but that was a slightly different release. Non-intentional, I'm just not a robot. I'll try to put this one on the same. That's better. That's even more parked. I don't know how to explain it coming out fast, but like, if you've ever thrown a disc that's in a slot that you're used to throwing and it's just like, whew, just out there, that's kind of how that felt for me. But they all should have birdie putts. Also, if somehow, Drew, you're watching this video, let's link up sometime. Got a lot of disc golf ideas. And you seem like a savvy business dude. We should talk. Well, not getting under par this round, first putt of the day. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So obviously none of these throws were exactly the same. This one was slightly more hyzer. I do think this one was slightly more anhyzer, which it's just hard because I throw these discs all the time, so I'm kind of correcting for how I want the throw to look. And so this, I think, kind of sits in between those slots. Maybe like a new Lucid EMAC Truth or new Gold Line EMAC Truth. That Lucid Ice one is a little more stable than your normal Lucid, and that other Lucid one is super beat in. So this seems to fit in between those slots, which seems to make it pretty true and straight. So we'll head on to the second hole and hopefully test it against something that I can throw a little bit more the exact same as the Supra. All right, our second hole here is 225 feet to the basket that is underneath those trees, kind of right where those guys were moving. It's a hanging basket. The Supra doesn't have the box because I got birdies with the other disc. The next one I want to test it against is going to be the AGL Magnolia. Now I know not a lot of people have necessarily thrown this, but one thing that's interesting is this is more of a beaded mid-range, the Magnolia is, than this. but it has a similar kind of flashing adjacent thing going on right there. I don't know if it's flashing, and it's honestly kind of already rubbing off where I've already thrown it. This is definitely much flatter than this, which normally would make it more overstable, but I think it's pretty flippy. And on this line, I really want to see how the Supra holds turn. So we're gonna try to throw a turnover through this gap here and just sit it down underneath the basket. A lot of finesse on this shot. We're gonna go Magnolia first. That disc is so much more flippy than I think it is all the time. All right, we're gonna go Supra. Wow, go in the bucket. Oh my gosh. That holds that line so well. I thought that was in. Wow, that was very true to a straight flying mid, whereas the Magnolia, less of a straight flying mid and more of an understable mid, even though the numbers would suggest otherwise. I thought I dunked that Supra though. Under par, like we like to see it. Now we're gonna get to test out how she flies. All right, hole 4, we're probably barely gonna be able to see it. Probably gotta bump it. It's just hard to expose because the sky is so blown out. Hopefully we don't throw these too high in the sky, otherwise we're probably not gonna be able to see them for a lot. But this is 364 feet to the basket right in the middle there. No OB, so what we're gonna do is put this against what a lot of people think is the farthest flying mid-range, which is the Axiom Hex. The Hex and the Supra, pretty similar. It looks like the Hex, kind of this downslope, is a little bit faster than the gradual downslope here, and this is a little bit blunter of a nose. And like I said, if they feel, this feels slightly deeper than the Hex does. And the Hex, the plastic just always feels so good out of that factory, but these are both max weight. We're gonna see if we can get even close to reaching inside the circle with either of them. Supra does have the box though. I imagine I'm gonna have to put some hyzer and throw it a little bit to the left because it should turn. There we go. That's pretty solid. It's not like crazy distance. I think the blunt edge of the nose compared to the Hex definitely takes off some speed. Like this just feels more aerodynamic. Oh, the Hex also does not turn as much as the Supra does, which, and the Supra is heavier. I do notice that Supra is very like what a lot of people want a straight flying mid to be. It is gonna turn a bit, especially like straight out of the box, which is kind of surprising for a Drew Gibson disc. What I've noticed from a lot of people who have a lot of power, okay, we're not all the way out. When I test Simon's discs or when I test Calvin Heimberg's discs, they tend to be so much more torque resistant. But what can be nice is that it's not as glidey, which a lot of people would like, because if you put the right spin on it and it's not as glidey, it's much more controllable, which might make it more similar to the Buzz, which is also a very not glidey mid-range in my personal opinion. This might all be for naught because the Supra might be farther than the Hex. I might have yanked that guy a lot. Well, here is the Hex. As you can see, pretty far outside the circle, and there are some circle markings. You might be able to make out that the Supra is literally just outside the circle on a 364-foot hole. So I probably threw that about 330 feet. That's interesting. I mean, that was a better throw than the Hex for sure. Yeah, I think you can pretty much disregard a lot of what I just said, but that's the beauty of testing these discs. Too short. Good line. I mean, don't disregard all of it because it is a little flippier than I would have expected out of the box. Maybe that has to do with plastics, but I know Finish Line only has a couple plastics right now. They have their composite and whatever their other ones are. But holy crap, this is literally just outside the circle. Pretty good distance for a mid for me. Got it. Let's go. Heck yeah, that's that Drew Gibson jump putt for you too. All right, our subscription to Daylight is slowly running out. I think we're gonna go ahead and test this disc against the MD3, the Iron Samurai 4, which is a Chroma MD3, but I have another video comparing these that you can check out right up here after this one, and they're pretty much the same. These discs are honestly pretty similar as well, which makes sense because MD3 is an Innova mold, and Infinite is kind of an Innova adjacent company. Yeah, this one is a little blunter, it looks like, than the MD3, but we're gonna try these out on a forehand under this canopy here, see how they hold. It's a pretty short hole, it's only like 220 feet, so that's why I wanted to choose this one, because it's comfortable mid-range distance. Finish Line Supra is up first. Kind of feels good in the forehand. The way that this rim sits fills your hand nicely. Oh yeah, that little flip up. It's a little deep probably. Oh, that's really good. It's a little deep. Did flip up, didn't really burn though, and then it kind of faded. MD3. So I did throw that a little more left, but the flight was pretty similar. I do think it turns a little more than the Supra did though. The Supra kind of flipped up the fly on that forehand and then came back. And I've noticed it kind of likes to hold your line. That MD3, besides that video, I have not thrown at all, so it's pretty much new. But I'm pretty impressed with the integrity of the Supra so far in terms of being what people would want as a straight flying mid-range. And to be honest, everyone's discs are pretty similar. And like, I wouldn't say that this is significantly different than a lot of other companies, but if you really like Drew Gibson, you're gonna wanna buy this disc, which I think is a good thing because it gives more chances for innovation within the community because some things might be better than others. But at the same time, it gives your Gibson fans a chance to directly support him in a way that is much more financially lucrative for him than just like selling a sponsored disc. Got people behind me, so I gotta rush. All right, 3 down through 4. I think one thing that's really great about this disc is I don't feel like I've gotten the hang of it because I've thrown it a bunch. I feel like I've gotten the hang of it because it acts like a straight flying mid is supposed to act. I don't have Drew Gibson power. He's got me about like 200 feet easily. But I know my arm speed is probably above average, and this disc, like, it would definitely fit into my game, but it would also fit into a lot of other people's games because it flies like a straight flying mid would for me, and probably for a lot of slower arm speeds as well, because it does have that little bit of turn, but it's not really gonna burn on you unless you throw it really hard and really low. So we have a couple of tighter tunnel shots here to end it off with. This one I'm gonna throw against the Buzz because I think it's probably the hardest hole that we're gonna play today. This is 5.4 -1.1 compared to 5.5 -0.51. We'll see how they fly differently. This hole is that 285 foot tight tunnel straight shot where you wanna throw something flat and hard. It won't turn much, but it will come back. The Buzz is a little bit more overstable than I think this disc is gonna end up being. So I think throwing this one flat, it might turn a little bit, but we're gonna try to throw these both low and hard and try to get up to the basket, which is literally straight ahead of us. Supra is up first. I'm thinking we're gonna have to put this on a slight amount of hyzer, maybe about 5 or 10 degrees, and should pop up the flat and ride.
Because it does have that little bit of turn, but it's not really gonna burn on you unless you throw it really hard and really low.
Oh. Kind of turned over a bit. I probably, if I watch that footage back, released it flat or anhyzered, or at least my follow through was. Fall through up for a hyzer, remember that. See if I can do this with the Buzz and actually hit it correctly. There's the Buzz. Parked. Just absolutely parked. I think the next disc that we're gonna compare it to is gonna be very similar, and I was also surprised at how flippy it was, but a lot of you guys also said that it's normally more stable, so I'm interested to see what this disc is like down the road. But because of how flippy it got on that turn for me, I imagine it would be a really, really solid beginner's mid-range, similar to how his other disc, which name is escaping me right now, but I've heard so many things about the fact that that disc is such a good beginner driver because it's just like that little bit flippier at an 8 speed. I actually marked it with this leaf. I can't believe I found the leaf that I marked it with. Gonna have to do a big hyzer putt or any putt. I prefer the hyzer. That's all right. I think what surprised me about this being that little bit extra flippier and touchier is that Drew likes these Buzz shots that are super, super like hard and in tunnels. And this disc feels like it needs a lot more touch to be able to make that happen. No bogeys, 3 down through 5. Let's get one more. And now that I know it's a little flippier, I think we are gonna play that first hole. All right, so the last disc that we're gonna be comparing this with is going to be an Aura Pathfinder, which is 173 grams, so slightly light. The Pathfinder feels always like it's a little smaller diameter, but it doesn't seem to be. And the profiles on these are very different, which is pretty interesting because this was slightly flippier for me. So this one, I think I'm gonna try to throw really hard, hyzer flip to turn, because we're throwing from this tee pad into that cluster of trees where that basket is. So it's 300 feet, 296, so it should be a decent mid-range distance. You just gotta test the high ceiling and hopefully get it turned all the way there. Oh, a little too much turn. Oh my gosh. Well, upshot with the Pathfinder. This will be interesting to test these upshots, but it's definitely a little less stable than I would have thought. I think thinking about it as a Buzz is probably wrong. It's just an interesting slot. It's kind of reminiscent of a Mindbender, maybe slightly more stable than a Mindbender. That type of disc is a weird stability for me. The Mindbender, this Pathfinder that I have in my hand, that disc, they seem to all be in similar stability. So if you have a slightly light Pathfinder, it's probably what the Supra is. Do we get any damage from smacking that tree so hard? Doesn't really look like it. It's definitely a straight flying mid, man. Like, it's straight. It's just too straight for what I want. I like there to be a little bit of finish. That'll also do. Maybe not a Mindbender, maybe a Mako 3. It definitely fits a slot. It's more for me of finesse mid-range, but I can't really rip on it like I can some of my other mid-ranges and feel confident. I do want to play this hole one last time, the one that we threw it against the Buzz, just to see if I can figure it out a little bit more. I think I've been trying to throw it this much hyzer, like pretty close to flat, but I think it's more of a hyzer flip disc. Yes. Oh, baby. All right, I figured it out. Just put it on more hyzer. Luckily, we're 3 down, so I don't have to give it away because I really like the disc and it's cool to have a pro or first run, whatever this one is. but it might be worth checking out. Pretty solid. Definitely might check out my Hex versus Pathfinder versus Buzz video right over here, or my Iron Samurai 4 versus MD3 video right down here. So if you're a big Drew Gibson person, this is going in your bag, I guarantee it. And if you're unhappy with your mids, this can go in your bag. But if you're happy with your mids, this isn't something that you necessarily need to put in your bag. Sorry, Drew.